Hi, welcome to another episode of Real Gold, where we discuss classic films, their relevance and importance, and whether they deserve the awards that they received. I'm your host, Matt Duffy, and today I want to talk about a film that is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year, and that is 20th Century Fox's Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, starring Paul Newman, Robert Redford, and Katharine Ross. I recently saw it, and two things I want to touch upon with this classic film. One, just because a film gets mixed reviews when it first comes out doesn't mean it's guaranteed to be a flop. Two, star power never hurts a film. If anything, it adds that extra touch that any movie needs. So let's dive in. So the film follows Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, these infamous train robbers who are fleeing a posse and escape to Bolivia in search of a better life. Paul Newman plays Butch Cassidy, Robert Redford plays the Sundance Kid, and Katharine Ross plays Etta, the kid's girlfriend who accompanies them to Bolivia. And I really enjoyed the film. I thought it was hilarious. It's just one of those films where you just feel good watching it. Like, you don't need to worry about anything. You just let the ride take you. I felt like I was on a roller coaster almost. And I thought the cinematography was awesome. I mean, some of these shots, they're fleeing this posse, and you just see them in the canyons. They're looking out, and just the sun sets, and all these big red-orange canyons, these mountains. The cinematography was awesome. George Roy Hill does a great job directing, as does William Goldman with the screenplay. But I think the best part about it is our stars. Paul Newman and Robert Redford are just charismatic, enigmatic. It's so fun to watch them. And because you have these two stars, these titans, you feel comfortable and you just let them take you on the ride. Like, again, they're such a delight to watch, and they're just fun. I had a smile on my face the whole time just watching them, because they're funny, they're cool. Like, you want to be them. I'm at a loss for words in case you couldn't tell. So they are the reason to watch this movie. I can't stress it enough. So the film was released in 1969, and that area, that 1968, 1969, is important in American history because it involves a turning point. At this point, the baby boomers are becoming adults, and it's kind of this out with the old, in with the new, in everything, including film. So gone are the days of your, studio epics at MGM, and they have this new wave of filmmaking that's coming in. You have films like Bonnie and Clyde and Easy Rider, In the Heat of the Night. All these films are coming, this new wave of filming, the Robert Altman films, and this new wave of filmmakers that are emerging too, that we are accepting as an audience. And one thing that has to go is the end of the Western. That's what I was thinking when I was watching this. This is the year where the last kind of Westerns are coming out. The Wild Bunch, True Grit comes out this year. This is the year that John Wayne wins his first Oscar, his Best Actor Oscar for True Grit. What else is out? Midnight Cowboy. Gone are the days of your Red Rivers and your The Searchers. And watching this film, you can kind of see that too. It starts off as this Western, but it ends up being kind of like a buddy comedy action adventure kind of film. You can tell that, even watching the film, that this is the end of the era for the Western. So Paul Newman was always going to be in the film. He was going to star in it. It was just who was going to be his co-lead. They had approached Jack Lemmon because Jack Lemmon's production company had done Cool Hand Luke a few years back. Jack Lemmon was like, nah, I'm too old. Marlon Brando, no. Warren Beatty, no. He said it was too much like Bonnie and Clyde. And then they found Steve McQueen. And could you imagine that film? Steve McQueen and Paul Newman? That would have been really cool to see. But anyway, so Steve McQueen was signed on. The problem was, allegedly, who's going to get top billing? Steve McQueen or Paul Newman? So, unfortunately, Steve McQueen dropped out of the film, allegedly, because they couldn't decide how to do the billing. There was a rumor that, like, in some versions of the film, Paul Newman would get it, and then other versions it would be Steve McQueen, and then just, obviously his team didn't like any of the options that they were served, so he withdrew from the film. But thanks to Mrs. Paul Newman, who who is the Academy Award-winning actress Joanne Woodward, she found Robert Redford. He was mostly like a theater actor. He did some bit parts in films. At this point, what did he do? Barefoot in the Park in 1967. So she said, check him out. Voila, a star is born. So thanks to that, they found Robert Redford for the co-lead, and he became a star. If I had to pick my one scene or my one shot for this film, it would definitely be, I think, the most iconic scene in the film when Butch and the Kid are running away from the posse. They're deep in the canyons, and hilarity ensues. I'm not going to spoil it, but definitely check it out when you're watching it.
All right? I'll jump first. No. Then you jump first. No, I said. What's the matter with you?
So, it's funny looking back on it. When the film first came out, it wasn't really well received. You know, Roger Ebert said it was slow and disappointing. This despite the fact that it contained several good laughs and 3 sound performances. And Variety said Newman and Redford both sock over their respective roles with a humanness seldom attached to outlaw characters. Doesn't seem bad. And then you get the lovely Pauline Kael, who called it a spin-off of Bonnie and Clyde. Everything rings false. It's a facetious Western and everybody in it talks comical. There you go. So going in, reviews weren't good, but the film was a box office success. It was #1 at the box office that year in 1969 in America. It beat out, Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice, Easy Rider, Cactus Flower, what else was that? Wild Bunch, Hello Dolly. Well, everyone beat Hello Dolly. Even Midnight Cowboy, which won Best Picture. So, by a lot though, it made $100 million over at the. It was a blockbuster. It was a success, and I think a lot of it had to do with this star power that was in it. You have Paul Newman, and then you have this budding star Robert Redford, and they were just a great duo. The best part about it is they will have another shot at this 4 years later doing The Sting, which wins Best Picture. So they have a great chemistry. The rapport is funny. I think it's the best part of the film. William Goldman writes a great screenplay. He's got these funny little quips and jokes in there. The tone is a little off, like I said before. At first you think it's a Western, but then it's kind of like an action comedy. But I think that's where we were in America, and that's what kind of makes it so more modern and feels good when you watch it now. That's why I think the popularity of it grew so much in the past 50 years, is because everybody can relate to it, and they like seeing these 2 stars. It's not this stuffy old, it's not what's that Sumerian. It's not Sumerian, it's not some 3-hour-long Western drama. Like, this is a 2-hour buddy comedy that just happens to take place in the early 20th century West. So that's the best part about it. So definitely, if it's on Turner Classic, if you have it at home, if you really want to watch it, pop it in.
The winner is Conrad Hall.
The winner is William Goldman for Butch Cassidy. The winner is Burt Bacharach for Butch Cassidy.
Now, at the 42nd Academy Awards, the film was a hit. Besides the reviews, the box office was awesome, and the reception with the Academy was astounding. It was nominated for 7 Academy Awards. It was nominated for Best Picture, Best Director for George Roy Hill, Best Original Screenplay for William Goldman, Best Sound, Best Cinematography, Best Score, and Best Original Song for the iconic Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head. And it ended up winning 4. It ended up winning Best Original Song, Best Original Score, Screenplay, and Best Cinematography. So it really was a major player that year at the Oscars. And I think they deserved the awards they received. And it's funny, I read an interview with George Roy Hill, and he had mentioned that he thought they were going to win Best Picture. Like, it was kind of that kind of feeling. And they started winning all the awards early in the evening. And then he knew something kind of changed when all of a sudden Midnight Cowboys started picking up steam. And then all of a sudden they won Best Director. And then finally they won Best Picture. You know what their run kind of reminds me of? It reminds me of last year when Bohemian Rhapsody was nominated at the Oscars. I think that film was nominated for like 4 or 5 awards. And it had It had terrible reviews from critics. I mean, I'm not going to give you my opinion. I'll tell you that later. The box office was amazing for that film. I think that film made like almost like $900 million. It's insane. And then the reception at the Academy, I believe they were nominated for like 5 awards, and they won 4. They won almost the same ones. I know they won sound, they won editing. There's parallels everywhere. And, you know, that just shows you, you know, just because a film gets a bad review doesn't mean that it can't catapult to a box office success. It can't be nominated for a bunch of Oscars. You know, it can play a factor in a film, that's for sure. That definitely happens all the time. But sometimes the opposite is true. So I've already said that one of my favorite parts about this film is the rapport between Paul Newman and Robert Redford. You know, this movie star quality. Now, I just saw last week Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. Even if you don't like Tarantino, it's a great film. Paul Newman and Robert Redford's relationship in the film reminded me so much when I was watching this film with Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt. You have these 2 movie stars that are just iconic in their own ways, but also have this great exuberant energy and chemistry that they bring to the film. And it ultimately, for me, elevates the film. And I just, watching those 2 films, there are so many parallels. I mean, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was in 19 takes. The parallels are insane. Anyway, so just to wrap everything up, regardless of the reviews, 50 years later, the film was a box office success. It was an Academy Award winning hit. It was a commercial success with the public. It is still beloved now. You know, the Writers Guild of America had their ranking of like, you know, best screenplays. It came in number 11. AFI did their top 10 lists for their westerns. It came in at number 7. So the love and admiration for this film 50 years later is still there. And I think a lot of it has to do with the screenplay by William Goldman, as well as our 2 stars, Paul Newman and Robert Redford. And just because a film gets bad reviews doesn't mean it can't be a hit. And when you have that little touch of star power, it just makes a film just right. It's like the cherry on top of an ice cream sundae. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys check out the film soon, and I'll be out soon with a new video. Catch you later. Be sure to hit like, click subscribe, comment if you want. If there's a film you want me to talk about, I'll definitely check it out. Feel free to follow me at MattDuffy33 on all social media, and I'll see you guys soon. Thanks.